Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
y- yeah. So what's going on over there? You've been invited to speak, right, at this college, and they're
Right.
coming out in masses saying, no way, no way.
Way more than that, sir. 2 hours, up until 2 hours before the event, they kept posting flyers with my face, claiming that I'm terrorist, genocide, baby killer, and therefore all of New York residents should mask on and come to stop me for, God forbid, telling the truth. They came with over 100 masked protesters try to break into the building. Some of them actually managed to do so, and NYPD stopped them right before they got to the hall. That was crazy. That was brutal. This is something that I personally have never seen before in all of my 5 speaking tours since October 7th.
So tell us a bit about who you are specifically. You fight in the reserves for a special forces unit, but you also do advocacy. So how did you get into advocacy, and what type of advocacy do you do there in these speaking tours in the U.S.?
Great question, sir. Well, up until October 7th, I've lived in the shades, never posted anything online, barely. And after 5 months of fighting on my first round of October 7th, I got back into life, opened all of the news channels, CNN, BBC, The Economist, and I see how the Western world managed to simply turn everything against Israel. This is when I realized that the American media is basically posting publishing, pushing towards false narrative. And I said, okay, F it, I'm a lawyer. I know the international law. I'm 12. I fought 12 years in special forces, 2 wars in Gaza, hundreds of deep operations. If they want to know what truth is, I'll give them my truth, my taste of it. And this is how it all started.
But to tell the truth, first they have to agree to listen to you. And as we see in these campuses, and it's crazy, and it's been talked about a lot, that universities that are supposed to be beacons of freedom of speech, where ideas are debated on their merits, that they just want to ban someone from actually coming to speak. And not to mention the fact, and I ask you this, and you've been around there in America on these campuses, if they brought, let's say, a Palestinian who was released from prison who had committed a terror attack in Israel to the university, would you see that kind of protest?
You would never see. You would never see anything of the sort. Actually, I posted on Instagram, Fight the Differences, and then I saw the flyer how they, meaning the so-called pro-Palestinian movements, called to stop me and actually and even hurt me physically. And they chant, "Stav Cohen, you will see, Palestine will be free," and they threatened they will murder me. Unlike the flyers of the pro-Israeli and pro-Jewish movements around here in the city, who called with no violence, no mask, no nothing, just come and support the truth and the light. You would never see anything of the sort. This is not how we deal with that kind of stuff. I actually invited them, the pro-Palestinians, for another debate because we had several here. None of them wanted to. None of them wanted to.
Yeah, that what you said there about the sort of violent element to it, meaning it's not just a protest saying we want to censor the speaker, but people wear masks. There's threats of assault. There's also been Jewish students on campuses who say they've been threatened. There seems to be a violent element to this movement and to the protest movement, which is supposedly supposed to be defending human rights and have a peaceful agenda, but doesn't seem so.
That's right, sir. I personally think that ever since Mamdani won, now you have the spirit of the commander, as we say it in Hebrew, Ruach HaMefaked, which means that basically you have the legitimacy of putting on mask, chant Free Palestine, chant globalized intifada, physically attack officers, as you just showed your viewers. And it's not legitimate, however, to be Jew. I actually yesterday gave another interview with my Israeli flag outside of Hunter College. They kicked me out of the public sidewalk just because I was standing, just like I'm standing right now with my Israeli flag. It's not allowed anymore. It's not okay anymore to be Jew within New York. And I actually fear for the safety of my brothers and sisters, the Jews around here in New York, because if that's the case right now, before Mamdani walks into office, what will happen on New Year's Eve? We'll just have to wait and see.
Have you been talking to New Yorkers? I mean, there's a huge Jewish community there, actually the biggest in the world. More Jews live in New York than any other city, even in Israel. Over 1 million Jews, if I'm not mistaken.
Say it again. I'm sorry, sir.
No, I've said over 1 million Jews in New York, big Jewish community. Have you been speaking to them? You said there's concerns there as well, just for people living there, that they don't feel, even if they're not openly advocating for Israel, just by being Jewish, that they feel targeted. There was a protest outside a synagogue recently because an organization was coming there and telling them about the possibility of maybe moving to Israel. And then Mamdani came out and said that it's against international law, apparently, to immigrate to Israel or advocate immigration to Israel. So
that's right, sir. You know what? Let me tell you something about New Yorkers, Jews around here these days. I feel, every person that ever been to Israel and you had to run for shelter because of the sirens, that split of a second right after the siren and right before when you're hearing the boom. Does that make sense to you? This is the atmosphere right now in New York for Jews. The siren already went on, and now you're waiting for the impact. Things are very tense around here. I personally don't see any Jewish symbols here out in the street. No yarmulke, no hostage pin, no Israeli flag, wherever, nothing. We call it in Hebrew korenut sfiga. You're just as if someone yelled brace for impact and everyone just tense. It's very tense. And I personally think that you'll see more and more Jews live in this city. I have 4 friends of mine who already left the city, New Yorkers that were born and raised here in the city, but this is how it is.
So when you do have an opportunity to speak, when they don't censor you, what do you say? What's your message?
Well, basically that if they're pro-Palestinians for real, then stand with me, because I'm fighting those who are oppressing them. I've been fighting Hamas, who've been hijacked an entire society ever since I was 18. I had participated in hundreds of deep operations within enemy territory, and I tell you one thing: many civilians around those other fronts, either Judea and Samaria and Gaza, although many of them are supporting Hamas, Jihad, Fatah, you name it, some of them actually want peace, or at the very least, some of them just want to live. Does that make sense to you? So I tell these pro-Palestinians, hey, you care about the suffer of what you would call Palestinians? Great. Stand with me. Let's take out the terror regime and allow the civilians a proper life. Just like you can take out the Nazis out of the regime, you could never take out the ideology, that's for sure. But you can definitely remove them from the terror regime, and then you can allow new generation with new life.
It's kind of ironic, though, what you said about the fact that there are some people, I mean, there's a debate how many actually in places like the West Bank and in Gaza really believe in coexistence with Israel. But if they are there, they can't speak. They're scared to speak. And that's the same type of censorship that you're experiencing from the pro-Palestine crowd in New York, where they want to shut you up. They don't want you to speak. And then if anyone on the Palestinian side wants to say something dissenting from destroy Israel, from support for Hamas, they also can't speak. So that's the way it is.
Absolutely, sir. I actually feel here like an Arab would feel in the Middle East. The only place that Arab in the Middle East can open his mouth is at the dentist office. And here now it feels pretty much the same. They're not allowing me to,
It's the censorship definitely is brutal in the Middle East, and we never thought we'd see it in America, but it's coming to America as well. Stav Cohen, IDF Special Forces reservist and advocacy activist, on tour in New York. We'll wish you the best of luck, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.